Hey everybody, welcome back to episode 2 of Coding for Cure, where we will learn to code in Python while also helping out the Cure Foundation in their mission to cure childhood cancer. All profits from this course benefit Cure. I'll have a donate link posted in the description of this video for anybody who wants to pitch in and help Cure. In this video, we'll go over some of the basic syntax and functions in Python. If you haven't watched last week's video on installing Python, you can click the link in the description to watch that one first. But anyways, let's get started. Let's try our first piece of code. Hello world. So hello world is a traditional programming phrase that we use to introduce beginners to programming concepts. It's a pretty simple program that displays the phrase hello world on the screen. It's always the first step in when you learn a new coding language. But let's get into the syntax of hello world. Well, we're using two main statements. Print, which is a command or function that tells the computer to write out whatever is in the brackets into the terminal. And we're going to be using a string, which is a command that gives the computer text information. Whatever is between the quotes is the string's value. So let's try it out. First, we're going to write a print statement. We're going to open our bracket. Then we're going to open our quotes and write the phrase, hello world. Lastly, we can close our print statement with the end parenthesis. When we run this code, we should get an output of hello world. Pretty cool, right? Now, you guys can pause the video and try this exercise. In this exercise, I want you guys to write a code piece that will say hello world and then goodbye world on separate lines. All right, now here's the solution to that. There are two different solutions that we can use for this. We can either write two print statements, one saying hello world and one saying goodbye world. If we do this, our output will be as shown. The other way to do this is by using /n. /n tells Python that to write whatever comes after the /n on a new line, as you can see by the output. Similarly, there's also /t, which adds a tab. So if you wrote in any of those ways, good job, you get a point. So here's another data type, just like strings. So the data type of integers stands for numbers, whole numbers specifically. And they are simply written as what they are without any quotes or anything. For example, the string hi needs to be written in quotes, but the integer 5 is typically written as 5 with nothing else around it. So let's move on to our second exercise. Can you make our code print any number rather than hello world? AKA use a print statement to output in the terminal any integer. So the main solution for this would just involve writing a print statement and putting a number between the brackets instead of using a string. Nice job if you got that one. So here's some other data types you may want to know while using Python. Python has Booleans as well, which are true-false statements. To write a Boolean, I would just simply use true or false, as well as making sure that the first letter is capital. We also have floats, which are decimals. Like I said, integers are only for whole numbers. So you put a decimal in, it won't be an integer. It's rather a data type called a float. So for example, if you want to write 5.06, we just simply write 5.06, and it changes the integer, the type, instead of an integer to being a float. So let's move to one of the most important concepts in Python, variables. Variables are containers used to store data in our programs. They have a name, a value, and a data type. Variables make it very easy to refer to and manipulate data throughout your code. Luckily, Python, it can handle any data type that you give it. So here are some naming rules for variables that you're going to want to follow to be a professional coder. So variable names are case sensitive. They contain letters, digits, and underscores. For example, if you write the variable car with an uppercase C and the variable car with a lowercase c, they are not the same variable to Python. It will think that you are calling two different variables. For example, if I write a print statement, set the value of car equal to, for example, Toyota, right, as a string. And then I ask it to print car, but I use a lowercase c instead of an uppercase c. Python will get confused because it thinks you're calling two different variables, when in your head, you think that you're calling the same variable. First character of a variable name cannot be a digit in Python. So your variable cannot be named like 0, 1, 2, 3, your name, for example. That will not work for Python. It will get confused. And avoid using keywords. For example, functions like print, for, and if. Those will cause an error because Python thinks you're trying to call the function rather than name a variable. So make sure to not use any functions as variable names. So for the syntax of variables, you can declare a variable by assigning a value to it, aka by declaring, I mean you'll set the variable equal to something. You don't need to declare the data type. Like I said, Python is going to figure out what data type it is based on what you input to it. For example, when I write x equals 5, it assigns the value 5 to a variable named x. Now, let's do a quick exercise. Remember, pause the video if you want to try it out yourself. Can you assign hello world to the variable x and then print the variable x instead of writing in quotes hello world and just printing hello world? All right, let's see the solution to that. So as you can see, it's pretty simple. All we need to do is x and set it equal to hello world, aka we're assigning the value hello world to x. Then when we print x, Python will look through its memory and see, okay, now what does x stand for? Since we gave it the value of hello world, it's going to print hello world. Similarly, if we gave it the value of, say, the Boolean equaling true, right? We said x is equal to true, it would print true. So let's experiment a little bit with our variables. What do you think this code will print? X is equal to hello world, and we follow it up to x is equal to 5. What do you guys think that Python's going to print out? Do you think it's going to print out hello world 5, or is it going to print both, like hello world 5? What do you guys think? Take a quick pause and put in your guess. All right, if you thought they would print 5, that is correct. Now, the reason why it prints 5 is because of variable assignment. So a variable in Python only stores the last value it was given. This is why it's very important to keep track of what variable names you are already using. For example, you might screw up your code if you set it equal to, say, a string like we just did, if we wanted to print hello world, right? But if we just set it to a different variable, we can just set it to like a number, right? That means that Python will think of the last value and record the last values, what that variable stands for. So make sure to keep your names differentiated. And I think a good strategy for this personally, try and make your variable names very descriptive. Don't use like X. You could make hello world. You could make it like, say, the variable 5 could be number, right? So you could make the variable number and then set that equal to 5. And for hello world, you can make the variable, say, string and set that equal to hello world, right? So always make sure you know what variables you're using. So here's a little bit more about floats and booleans again. So in Python, we can also perform operations on our data types. In Python, we have 4 standard operators: the plus for add, minus for subtract, multiplication via the star, and dividing via the slash. We can use this, and it's quite useful in many ways. For example, we can combine different strings with a plus. You can perform operations in integers, such as, for example, making a calculator by the use of plus, minus, and the star and slash for math. So here's an exercise for you guys to practice using operators. I have 2 variables, x and y. Can you combine the variables into one variable and then print the output for me? All right, here's the solution to that. For that, what you simply do is just write x is equal to hello, right? And then y is equal to what's your name, what I've given you, right? Then you can make a new variable such as z, which is equal to x plus y. And then you can print z. You could also do the solution that I will do right now. As you can see, we can just simply write hello in quotations, add the plus, and then write the second quote. Or we can just do print x plus y. Both of those solutions will equal our desired output. So let's move on to input statements. Inputs are pretty similar to print statements. An input statement allows a program to accept the user input during runtime. They enable interaction between the program and the user. Python lets you use the input function to capture user input. So the syntax of input, it's written very similar to the print statement, as most functions are. So first, you write the word input, and then you add the brackets, right? So you first do that, and inside the brackets, you're going to write in quotations, or you could put like numbers, for example. You can put anything you want in those ones, and it'll print that. It's a prompt basically to the user. For example, in this one, we have a string that prompts the user to enter their name, right? And then we can set that equal to a variable. For example, we have x is equal to the input of enter your name. So when we run this code, we'll prompt the user to enter their name, and then we'll set that name equal to x, aka we're assigning x to whatever the user inputs. So here's a quick exercise for you guys to do. Remember, pause the video if you want to try it out yourself. Can you ask the user what their favorite color is? And can you print the name of that color once they've inputted it? Now, here's a solution to that exercise. Solution is to first assign a variable to their answer. For example, we'll do x equal to the input of what's your favorite color, right? And then we can print x. For example, if I write the input and then ask what's your favorite color, I type in blue as the user, it will automatically print out blue because of our code. So now we're going to go on to our bit heavier functions. Just one quick example for this video. We're going to talk about the if and else functions. If and else are two very useful statements we have in Python. They split our code down to different thought paths. For example, it's like the code asking, is this value true? If the value is true, I should go down this path of code. If the value is not true, or it stands for something else, then I should go down a different path. So here's an example of an if or else statement. So first, we have our input statement from last time, right? And then I'm going to use my operators. If x is equal to blue, equal is a comparison operator. It does not set x equal to blue, but rather it is trying to cross-reference and see, does x equal blue? Or does it equal lowercase blue, for example? If it does, Python prints out, I like blue too. However, else, it will just print out the color that the user printed, the color the user inputted, sorry, and then print that's a cool color. As you can see, the code can go down two different thought paths as we've shown. For example, the first time the user inputs the color red, Python will print out red and then say that's a cool color. The other way, Python says, you enter blue, Python says, okay, cool, I like blue too. So by using an if and else statement, we can branch our code down two different paths. So here's an exercise. Can you modify the code from the last slide and try to make it print, instead of printing I like blue too, print I like red too when the user inputs red? Remember, pause the video if you don't want to show the solution immediately. All right, now here's the solution. Thank you all for watching this video, and I hope you all subscribe and tune in for the next episode where we'll be explaining a couple more functions of Python and getting a bit more in depth. Thank you.